Go inside the Crimson Tide with your hosts Rodney Orr and Gary Harris, keeping you informed on everything Alabama. Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome in to Tider Insider TV alongside Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com. I'm WVUA 23 Sports Director Gary Harris, and I said this last night, Rodney. I think the Alabama football coaching staff is set, at least for now.
Today.
It's been a lot of coaching news the last couple of days, and let's just jump right in, Rod, and get right to it. First, Kane Womack was officially announced as the defensive coordinator on Monday. He's been at work for about 6 weeks, so this was just a matter of making it official, and they're kind of staggering these announcements for some reason, but he's the defensive coordinator. We know that. That is Chris Kapilovic. He is joining Coach DeBoer's staff as the O-line coach, coming over from Baylor. He never coached at Baylor. He was hired there from Michigan State. And that's Brian Ellis, former UAB quarterback who's been the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach at Georgia Southern. He's coming in to coach tight ends at Alabama. Now, William Inge, who was thought to be part of the Bama defensive staff, left yesterday for Tennessee. And that man, Christian Robinson, another Baylor coach, coming over to be part of the defensive staff. Now, all that happened yesterday, and now let's get back to today, Rod. More announcements, official announcement that Nick Sheridan is going to be the offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach, and wide receiver coach Jamarcus Shepard also is going to be associate offensive coordinator. So just your takeaways from these last couple of days. Listen, I'm not getting carried away about it, but at the same time, it has been kind of hectic getting this coaching staff in place.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of that is the Seattle Seahawks take your offensive line coach, they take your offensive coordinator. I mean, obviously, we knew the changes were coming with Nick Sheridan, but I think, the hiring of Coach Chris, call him Coach Cap. How about that? The offensive line coach. I think he's going to do a fantastic job. He did a really good job at Michigan State for 4 years. They had one of the best running attacks in the country a few years ago. I think when you look at Brian Ellis, Gary, he's a real up-and-comer. I mean, he's a guy that he was offensive coordinator the last 2 years at Georgia Southern. What they did this past year, average over 300 yards a game passing. There's a lot of people that say, hey, keep an eye on this guy. He's not only a future offensive coordinator, he's going to be a future head coach. And Christian Robinson has a ton of experience in the SEC. I mean, he played at Georgia. He's a native of Georgia. His dad's a high school coach, has been a high school coach over in that state. So he's got a lot of contacts in terms of the recruiting. But he's done a fantastic job in terms of developing his players as well.
As you know, I got a friend of mine who coached with Coach Kapilovic as an assistant coach, and he tells me, people person, great recruiter, as you said, relates to the players, gave him a really high endorsement. So that's the latest on the Alabama staff. Of course, the roster, too, has been in flux a little bit, but Alabama now has made some headway in the portal. And last night, a big commitment from a really good safety. Alabama needs help in the secondary, and Keon Sabb is a guy that he can bring it, man. He played against Alabama in the National College Football Playoff semifinal. Had a great game against Coach DeBoer in Washington in the National Championship game, originally from IMG. 28 tackles, 6 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, and a tackle for loss this past season. And a tight end is coming in as well. We'll get to that in a moment. But let's start with Keon Sabb. And, with Caleb Downs going, Keon Sabb is coming. He's a good football player.
I think, we talked about this last week, one of the biggest question marks, I think, as you start to head into spring practice, Alabama's secondary lost a lot of corners. Obviously, Caleb Downs, they need help. I think this is a huge pickup. Keon Sabb's got a lot of experience. I know that the Michigan people thought, hey, you know what, he's going to be a star for us this year, this year coming up, 2024. But as you mentioned, highly recruited player out of IMG Academy, was 4-star rated prospect, 5-star by some, one of the top 100 players in the country. So I think this is one of the bigger pickups.
And another player coming in is another former Washington player, tight end Josh Cuevas. Now, 4 catches for 164 yards and a touchdown, but that's making your catches count. 41 yards of reception. This is a guy that knows the system, big physical tight end. Roddy, what do you think of Cuevas?
Well, look, I think as many tight ends as they use, you need some bodies. Again, he's got some experience in this system. That's really good. He spent a year at Cal Poly. Well, actually, I think he was redshirted there, then had a really good year, transferred to Washington. So now coming to Alabama, it's the experience factor. I think it's really big.
All right, let's get to coach talk. It's been a time since Nick Saban announced his retirement, 41 days, in fact. And the former Alabama head coach is staying busy, but saying that he's trying to stay an arm's length away from new head coach Kalen DeBoer. He says he wants to give DeBoer the space that he needs to build his version of the Alabama football program. But Saban also made it clear that he's available to help in any capacity that he can.
You know, I talk to Kalen every now and then, and talk to the defensive coordinator every now and then. He's going to come over and meet me, you know, this week sometime. So, you know, we're around. We're there to support the players and help them in any way that we can to help them be successful. I don't want anybody to think I'm looking over their shoulder. I think he's hired a good staff, and I think he's a good man. I think he's a good coach, and I think he'll do a really good job.
Coach Saban was in Birmingham on Monday night for the annual Nick Saban Legacy Awards Banquet, which recognizes the achievements of a college coach and his contributions to the game of football. This year's recipients, former Virginia Tech head coach Frank Beamer and the late, great Florida State head coach Bobby Bowden. All right, Rodney, Coach Saban saying, listen, I'm here if they need me. He even said that he's going to be visiting with Kane Womack soon to talk about the Alabama defense. But at the same time, the last thing I think he wants to do is like he said, feel like or make Coach DeBoer feel like he's looking over his shoulder. I think he's handling this perfectly.
You know, I think that the last time we went through a transition of this magnitude was probably, 40-something years ago when Coach Bryant stepped down.
Right.
And, Ray Perkins came in. I've talked to a lot of former Alabama players that were played at that time, and they said, look, because Coach Bryant passed away within a month, but his plan was to stick around as the athletic director for a year, and they thought, hey, how much help he could have been to Ray Perkins during that transition. So I think it's the same thing with Nick Saban. I think he's going to be available for Kalen DeBoer. I think that's really big. His experience, his understanding, his knowledge certainly be very helpful.
Yeah, it's going to be outstanding. And but I love the fact that Coach DeBoer, it's clear he is his own man and he's going to do things his way. But if you've got the greatest football coach arguably in the history of the sport in an office right here inside Bryant-Denny Stadium, I wouldn't be surprised if he calls on Coach Saban from time to time, too. All right, still to come on Tider Insider Television, Alabama men's tennis making a statement against number 5 USC. Also, the men's basketball team rising in the polls. And coming up, we'll be getting to your phone calls, emails, and tweets. As always, that phone number, 205-348-WVUA. That's 348-9882. We'll be right back with the only show that takes you inside the Crimson Tide, Tider Insider TV. I want to make sure you're aware of what the Alabama men's tennis team is doing so far this season. They've recorded 4 straight wins in singles play to upset number 5 USC in a Sunday consolation match at the ITA National Indoor Championships. The win was the second over a top 10 ranked team this season, as Bama also defeated number 10 Kentucky at the ITA kickoff weekend. That's big time stuff right there. Alabama's headed to the Blue Gray National Tennis Classic. The 2-day tournament will begin February 23rd in Montgomery. And welcome back to Tider Insider TV, brought to you by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Alongside Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. It was quite a weekend for Alabama sports. All over, but let's start with basketball. Both the men and the women, big wins over conference opponents on Saturday and Sunday. The Alabama men's team secured another dominating home victory on Saturday afternoon, defeating the Texas A&M Aggies 100-75. Bama extended its home court winning streak in the SEC to 16 games and secured their 8th 100-point game of the season. That's second all-time in the SEC behind 95-96 Kentucky, which had 9 and won the national championship. Mark Sears had 23 points. It became his 16th, it was his 16th 20-point game of the season. He also had 4 steals and 4 assists and 3 steals. Ryland Griffin, Latrell Reitzel Jr., Aaron Estrada, and Sam Walters also had double-figure games. Alabama will return to action tomorrow night against number 24 Florida, 6 p.m. tip-off on ESPN2 inside Coleman Coliseum. That'll be a tough game tomorrow night. Florida's big, strong, and physical. But, Rodney, I mentioned the 100-point games. Alabama scoring at a historic clip. 1 more and they tie Kentucky all-time. 2 more and they break the SEC record. This, despite the fact that they lost Brandon Miller, Noah Clowney, Charles Bediako, Javon Quinterly, Namari Burnett. I continue to talk about this, but this is phenomenal. Now, it all starts with Mark Sears, but there's a lot of guys who are shooting the basketball well. They made 18 three-point shots against Texas A&M.
I mean, it is. It's like you said, it's phenomenal. They're way beyond what I think the expectations were. I know we talked about it earlier in the year, Gary, and how they've progressed, how they've developed has been really amazing what they've done, and certainly with a lot of new players, as you mentioned. But I think what are they, number one in the country in scoring?
They are
tied with Arizona,
yep,
I think.
Yep.
So yeah, offensively, what a juggernaut. I know that Nate Oates keeps preaching, defense. We've got to play better defense. Certainly rebound the basketball a little better. But you know what? If they can continue to improve in those areas,
look out. Could be that Final Four is coming with Oates. I want to ask you about Sears because 20.5 points per game, 51.3% from the floor, 44.4% beyond the arc, 85% from the free throw line. And here he is not even being mentioned as a National Player of the Year candidate. And really, I don't hear him mentioned that much for SEC Player of the Year. He's a low-key guy. He's 6'1". Why do you think it is he's not getting more buzz for the kind of numbers that he's putting up?
You know what, Gary? I think it's one word I would say: disrespect.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you. Look, before the season started, I saw it on TiderInsider.com. I hate to admit it, but there's a lot of fans that just said, hey, we Mark Sears comes back, but so what? That they didn't think he was one of the top guards. I mean, what he's done is phenomenal. I think he's beyond, like we said earlier, expectations. It's all because of him.
He's the straw that stirs the drink. That's a good team. They've got a lot of good players. But you take Mark Sears off that team now, It's not the same bunch. I can tell you that right now. Now to Alabama women. What a win on Sunday for the Crimson Tide. They're 10th in the last 11 against Auburn, but they had to come from behind to do it. They were down pretty big going into the fourth quarter, but they rallied for a 67-61 win. In the process, Sarah Ashley Barker surpassed the 1,000 career point mark with 26 points in the game. 25-9, they outscored Auburn in the fourth quarter and got the split this year. Auburn had won the game down at Neville Arena, but Alabama continues its dominance over Auburn, Rodney. They got over 20 wins. I really think this puts them in the NCAA tournament, but Thursday night, they get a crack at number 1 South Carolina up in Columbia. Hey, listen, they're probably not going to win the game. I'm just being honest. But if you can go up there and be competitive against South Carolina, that would be quite a statement. Plus, they're playing the best team in the country, period. Yeah. So you'll find out exactly where you stand.
Yeah, you will. And I think, look, Alabama's playing with some confidence. I mean, you go on the road. I know it's going to be really difficult, but like I said, they seem to be playing with a lot of confidence. This program's just kind of getting better slowly, a step at a time.
Well, she being Christy Curry has established this program now as a consistent NCAA tournament team. Key now is not just to get into March Madness, but get into March Madness and make some noise. Yeah. Win some games in the NCAA tournament. I think this team is capable of doing it. Well, still to come on TITV, Alabama softball off to a 10-0 start this season as they continue to dominate these tournaments that they're playing in. And coming up, your phone calls, emails, and tweets. And I'm told that we've got phone lines that are wide open right now, which is very rare. Usually people call and complain that they can't get through. Well, I'm told if you call in right now at 205-348-9882, you will get through and we will get you on. Phone calls and emails coming up on TITV. The Alabama softball team shut out Southern Indiana 2-0 to finish up the Easton Bama Bash on Sunday at the Rhodes House. Alabama 10-0 now in the season and didn't get a lot of offense in this game, but the pitching has been outstanding. Aaliyah Johnson threw 5.1 shutout innings for her win in the game. She had 6 strikeouts. Kayla Beaver secured the final 3 outs of the game and got the save. Alabama will take on North Alabama Wednesday afternoon at 3 p.m. at the Rhodes House, but they are off and running. All right, welcome back into TITV with Rodney Orr. I'm Gary Harris. Let's get on the phone lines. And Robert over in Brookwood is with us. Hey, Robert.
Hey, brother. How are you?
Doing good, man.
Quick question to Rodney. I know it's probably rumors, but what do you think about Grubb leaving? Is that going to affect Williams, Fairland maybe transferring? You think there's anything to that, or he's staying?
No, look, I think that you're right, Robert. There are rumors. That's what they are, is nothing but rumors. I think when Ryan Williams looked at this program, he knew up front that there was a chance that Ryan Grubb might not be here. At the same time, and I say this repeatedly because I know a lot of people put this out here, this is Kalen DeBoer's system. It's his offense. So I don't think that there's anything that's going to really change in that regard. Ryan Williams coming here, he's going to have a great opportunity to do what he does best in an offense that's going to put up a lot of explosive plays.
All right, thanks, Robert, for that phone call. Let's get to our email question of the day. And our email question of the day is brought to you by KDM Service Corporation. When it comes to heating and air conditioning needs, say KDM Service Corporation serves your family like our family. Do y'all think the U of W portal quarterback and center will still transfer here now that the two coaches are staying in Seattle? I also wonder about the status of Will Rogers. David in Tuscaloosa. All right, let's take those one at a time. First of all, Brailsford, the center, and the quarterback, as you see him right there, they're staying. They're already enrolled here, so that's not an issue.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's going to be any transferring in that regard, if that's the concern. Now, Will Rogers, I assume he's talking about Will Rogers that transferred from Mississippi State to Washington, and I haven't heard anything about that.
Austin Mack and Brailsford are enrolled. Will Rogers is not going to be part of the Alabama football program, David, but these two gentlemen that you're watching, they're here, and they're not leaving because Grubb and Huff went back to Seattle to coach for the Seahawks, so no worries there. All right, are we going to go ahead and go to the break? All right, we're going to take a time out here on TITV. We're going to come back with more phone calls and Alabama men's baseball. They're on the diamond this afternoon over at the Joe. There's the phone number. Phone lines are open at 205-348-9882. We'll be back after this. Bama baseball. Look at those folks there having a big time at the Joe this afternoon after a weekend sweep of Manhattan to start the season. Third inning, I should say, against Middle Tennessee. TJ McCants, get that pitch out of here. Just inside the foul pole down the right field line. 2-run shot in the fourth. Middle Tennessee has the bases loaded and in position to make something happen. But watch Jackson Galloway. He's going to hit it to third, and that's a bad move because Gage Miller steps on the bag, throws across to third for the 5-3 double play. Alabama gets the win, 6-1 to move to 4-0 on the season. Welcome back into TITV. Let's jump back out on the phone lines and talk with Rick up in Jasper. Hey, Rick.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing well.
Real quick question. I know Rickard's gone, and I wish he was coming back, but how's Alabama looking for field goals, extra points, kickoffs, and punting this year?
Yeah.
And I'll hang up and listen.
Yeah, James Burnip, I think he's one of the best punters in the country. Thought he did a fantastic job last year. He's really developed. You know, Gary, when he came here, he had never kicked in a game, period.
And he looked like it the first few games.
He did. You're right. But as far as replacing Will Riker,
been great.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, replacing Will Riker. But Connor Talty, this guy was really highly recruited out of Chicago, was a freshman last year. I think there's a lot of high hopes for him, Gary. But, again, there's going to be a competition.
Yeah, Monday was Will Riker Day over in Hoover. He recognized as being the NCAA's all-time leading scorer. All right, let's get to David. This says South Side. We talking about over in Gadsden or South Side of Birmingham? Where you at, David?
Yeah, it's me.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Go ahead, David. You're on the air.
Do you think Jalen Milroe will get challenged at the quarterback position?
All right, David. I'll chime in and I'll let Rodney do most of the talking here. I think he'll be challenged. Yeah, because I think they got good quarterbacks here. Do I think he's going to go into spring as the starter? Yes. Is it my expectation that he'll be the starter this season? Yes. But do I think he'll get challenged? Yes.
Yes. I agree. Yeah, I really do. I think that obviously, I mean, he finished the season number one. He had a really good year. I mean, obviously, he got a lot better throughout the course of the year, and he will start spring number one. But look, they've got a lot of really good young quarterbacks. I think Ty Simpson's really talented. Dylan Lonergan. You've got the transfer Austin Mack, who there is a ton of buzz about right now. So yeah, all of those guys. It's a great quarterback room. The question is, Gary, how long do they kind of keep them all in that room?
All right, well, we'll see. All right, let's get to Alabaster and talk with Putty. Hey, Putty.
Hey, Gary. Hey, Rodney. Hope y'all are doing good.
Yes, thanks.
I just wanted to know if you knew what our, strength and conditioning staff was, if it's all settled, and then also when does spring practice start?
All right, strength and conditioning staff is pretty much the same, headed by David Ballou. Spring practice starts, 13 days from today, Rod?
March 4th, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but strength and conditioning staff
Yeah,
pretty much the
as
same.
far as I know. Now, I know Paul Constantine.
He's leaving to go to the Falcons.
Right.
But
So-
David Ballou still heads up the post staff.
Right. David Ballou's still running it, and I understand they've had a pretty rough fourth quarter, Gary.
Yeah, they're getting after it. You can see some videos if you go to the Alabama football account out on X. All right, that's going to do it for our phone calls and emails. We'll be back to wrap up the show right after this. Well, over the weekend, former Alabama track and field team member Daniel Hall shattered a 29-year-old men's weight throw record at the USATF Indoor Championships with a throw of 26.35 meters, almost 2 feet longer than the previous record. That's impressive. Hall won his second straight throw national championship and his third overall. Congratulations to him. All right, well, before we get to an email, Rodney, we got time to get another email in. I do want to mention the College Football Playoff Board of Managers today unanimously revised the qualifying criteria for the 12-team event to now include the 5 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next 7 highest-ranked teams instead of 6 and 6. So they're already tweaking it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think we'll see more tweaks.
I do too. All right, let's get to. We got time for an email. This is a good one. Will Ohio State try to hire Nate Oates? That's from Paige in Vestavia. I think the answer is yes. I think Ohio State will reach out to Nate Oates. I wouldn't be surprised if Louisville does. If they let go of Kenny Payne, or Michigan, if they let go of Juwan Howard. Nate Oates is going to be in demand. Bottom line is, though, he loves his job here. He's making a lot of money. I'm sure that Greg Byrne, if Nate Oates gets an offer, will step up to try to keep him here because I think arguably right now he's the best coach in the country.
Yeah, and I heard one of the national insiders of basketball that follows this coaching kind of carousel extremely closely. He said he thinks Oates is going to be here a while.
Yeah, I think he really, really likes it. But Alabama's got a coach that, keep in mind, when Greg Byrne hired him, people knew he was at Buffalo and knew he'd done a good job, but he wasn't on the radar. This was a great hire by Greg Byrne, and Nate Oates right now is proving his worth as Alabama's in the catbird seat to win another SEC championship. All right, well, that's going to do it for this edition of Tider Insider TV. Thanks for tuning in. It's been presented by Tuscaloosa Tourism and Sports. Don't forget, if you missed any of tonight's show, you can catch the replay tonight at 10:30 after WVUA 23 News at 10, or online anytime at WVUA23.com, or you can also find it at TiderInsider.com. For Rodney Orr, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for watching TITV, and we'll talk to you again next Tuesday night at 6:30.